the hero died before his grand campaign could yield success, leaving generations of brave souls to weep into their garments. Whenever we recount these poignant verses by poet Du Fu, our hearts invariably ache for that legendary figure, man with the iconic feather, fan, and silken headdress. In previous discussions, we noted a widely held belief that for 99% of the Chinese populace, Zhuge Liang is the unrivaled personification of pure wisdom. Yet, when you delve deeply into the latter half of the Three Kingdoms epoch, you uncover a force within him even more soul-stirring than intellect. The ultimate, uncompromising manifestation of absolute loyalty. Hailing from Yangdu, in Langya Commandery of Shu Province, he rose to become the esteemed Chancellor of Shu Han, guiding the empire through a completely turbulent era. To the world, he is remembered as a preeminent statesman, a brilliant military strategist, and a profound man of letters, and a highly visionary inventor of his time. But, beneath these titles, he was a solitary, courageous pioneer, who knowingly embarked upon an absolutely impossible journey. Today, let's step back into the chaotic winds of the Three Kingdoms and the subsequent eras, to witness how this unparalleled Chancellor of the Ages burned the final embers of his life in absolute despair, composing a tragic yet magnificent anthem of loyalty, righteousness, following his instrumental role in assisting Liu Bei to secure the strategic territories of Jing and Yi provinces, there be manifesting the grand vision of three sovereign states. Zhuge Liang's role underwent a monumental transformation. He transitioned from a strategic military advisor, orchestrating battles from behind the scenes, into an exhaustingly burdened chief administrator, managing the daily operations of a fledgling empire, proving himself to be an elite politician and masterful economist. Meticulously codified the laws of Shu Han, known as the Shu Ke, championing agricultural development. He even appointed dedicated officials to oversee, maintain the legendary Zhuge irrigation system, ensuring enduring fertility. To rapidly replenish the state treasury, he stimulated domestic industry, exporting these luxurious textiles directly to their mortal enemies, selling them to the rival states of Wei and Wu, ingeniously using adversary wealth to fund his own military. Under his meticulous governance, the once impoverished Yi province was utterly transformed into a utopian society of peace, where people would not pocket items dropped on the road, and the strong dared not oppress the weak. However, the hands of fate seemed to revel in playing the cruelest of jokes on this peerless sage. The catastrophic chain of events began with Guan Yu's carelessness, which led to the devastating loss of Jing province. This tragedy was swiftly followed by Liu Bei's disastrous defeat, culminating in the emperor passing away in Beidi City, his heart heavy with unfulfilled dreams and profound regrets. In what felt like an instant, a colossal crumbling mess crashed down squarely onto Zhuge Liang's solitary shoulders, faced with crushing internal instability and terrifying external threats. He did not retreat a single step to ruthlessly secure the nation's vulnerable rear. He led his armies to pacify the chaotic southern regions, famously capturing and releasing the rebel leader Meng Huo 7 consecutive times, decisively winning absolute southern loyalty. Immediately thereafter, driven by a solemn vow to fulfill the late Emperor Liu Bei's dying wish, restoring the Central Plains, he initiated the campaigns, the tragic, monumental operations known as the 6 Northern Expeditions. He did this while staring down a terrifying disparity in national strength and resources between the two states. His modest state of Shu Han and powerhouse Kaowei. To overcome insurmountable logistical nightmares, he engineered a solution: the wooden ox and flowing horse for automated grain transport. To decimate the heavily armored cavalry of the Wei state, he radically upgraded the repeating crossbow to relay desperate military intelligence across vast battlefields. He invented the floating Kongming lantern. In the twilight years of his exhausting life, he was single-handedly dragging the immense rusted machinery of the Shu Han state, forward, crawling agonizingly, through the treacherous, blood-soaked quagmire of the wars. When historians speak of Zhuge Liang's psychological warfare and composure, nothing is more terrifyingly brilliant than the empty city strategy, while its strict historical authenticity remains debated among scholars. Folklore and the romance of the Three Kingdoms, it has been forever immortalized. As a psychological masterclass, the setting was the devastating First Northern Expedition. Due to a critical misjudgment in appointing Ma Su, the vital, strategic stronghold of Jiating was violently breached, forcing the main Shu army into a frantic, emergency retreat. Meanwhile, the formidable Grand Commander of Wei, Sima Yi, was aggressively marching a terrifying force of elite troops, 150,000 men directly toward Xisheng, heading straight for Zhuge Liang's completely exposed position. The reality inside Xisheng was an absolute living nightmare. The city held a mere 2,500 soldiers, mostly the old, the weak, and the incapacitated, alongside a gaggle of completely terrified civil officials, men who lacked the strength to even tie a chicken. 150,000 fully armed elites against 2,500 incredibly frail men, akin to a ravenous tiger pouncing upon a helpless lamb, not even enough to satisfy the beast's initial bite. The officials within the walls were utterly paralyzed with fear, their faces ashen, their legs trembling uncontrollably. Yet, standing right on the precipice of total annihilation, Zhuge Liang issued a command that shattered everyone's comprehension: hide every single battle flag, throw open all 4 gates, have elderly soldiers dress as civilians and calmly sweep the streets at the entrances. Absolute silence is mandatory. He then calmly draped himself in a flowing cloak, took 2 young attendants, and cradled an ancient guqin, and casually ascended the steps of the city wall, lighting a stick of incense. He sat with perfect posture and began to calmly strum the strings. His instrument, arriving at the open gates, Sima Yi was entirely bewildered, gazing upon the wide-open doors and the sweeping civilians, and his lifelong nemesis plucking strings with eyes serenely closed. The melody flowing with horrifyingly perfect, undisturbed tranquility. The exceptionally brilliant Sima Yi's mind erupted into psychological battle. He reasoned that Zhuge Liang lived with excruciating caution, and that the man simply never takes foolish risks. For him to present such a theatrical display today, there must surely be a massive ambush waiting inside, preparing to rush out and slaughter us all. Cold sweat broke out on Sima Yi's brow. He didn't dare gamble. With a grand sweep of his arm, he roared, "Rear guard becomes the vanguard. Retreat." Immediately, just like that, an unstoppable avalanche of men was halted. 150,000 troops, violently driven away by nothing more than the gentle notes of a guqin, and 2,000 battered, completely exhausted soldiers. This was no dark magic, just a precise dissection, a terrifying dissection of fundamental human vulnerability. The absolute pinnacle of psychological and strategic genius, manipulating a man's deeply ingrained fears against himself. By the bitter autumn of the year 234 AD, the winds sweeping across the plains were piercing and cold. The 54-year-old Chancellor ultimately failed, unable to defeat the inescapable curse of passing time, passing away from exhaustion and illness within the military encampment, never living to see the end of his final expedition. As his eyes closed for the final time, he was denied the sight of Chang'an's towering walls, and the banners of Shu Han never did fly over the conquered soils of the Central Plains. Through the narrow lens of secular success, his campaigns failed, forever casting him as a profoundly tragic hero. Yet, why does his memory continue to command such reverence, such deep, unwavering respect thousands of years later? It is because his very existence crystallized an absolute truth, the perfect ideal of the ancient Chinese scholar and intellectual. He possessed the absolute power and opportunity to usurp, to take the throne and crown himself as a king. Yet he resolutely chose the arduous, thankless path, the bitter road of completely unyielding loyalty. He was intimately aware of Shu Han's terminal weakness, yet he willingly burned the final drops of life force to honor his solemn promise to restore the Han dynasty. The immortal words he penned in his final military memorial, to bend to the task until completely exhausted, and only cease when death finally takes you, were not merely a reflection of his own life. They metamorphosed into the indestructible spiritual totem of a nation. Zhuge Liang stands as an eternal, lonely lighthouse. He used his brief blazing life to teach a truth, a profound truth for all of posterity to remember. There is a distinct type of victory in this world, one defined by not judging a hero, mere success, and there is an unparalleled nobility found in impossible tasks. Knowing a task is impossible, yet undertaking it anyway. His majestic, righteous spirit will continue to course fiercely through the bloodlines of the Chinese people for all eternity. If you find yourself moved by the Chancellor's staggering loyalty, please honor him by leaving a specific phrase below, bending to the task until completely exhausted in the comments. We will see you in the next historical retrospective.